The kitchen air was thick with the scent of frying eggs. Luna stood by the stove, the heat radiating against her palms as she plated the last of the breakfast. Aplina, Vam, Nya, and Via shuffled into the room, blinking against the morning light, and began setting the table with rhythmic, practiced movements. The clatter of silverware and the steam rising from their coffee cups filled the silence until Luna tapped her fingers sharply against the wood. "We are bored," she said, her voice cutting through the morning haze. "Let us go to space and find something strange." The group exchanged glances, the hesitation vanishing as quickly as it appeared. They moved in unison, abandoning the half-finished meal to rush toward the hangar. Within minutes, the hatch hissed shut. Luna strapped into the pilot's seat and punched the thrusters. The ship groaned, then surged forward, the floor vibrating violently as they tore through the atmosphere. The blue sky fractured, fading into the deep, velvet black of the void. The stars stretching into long, thin needles of light as the ship accelerated into space. Hours of silence passed before the radar pinged, a sharp, rhythmic sound that drew them to the console. Luna pointed toward the view screen. A jagged golden sphere hung in the darkness, glowing with a soft, warm light. It was a planet of impossible geometry, a landscape made entirely of popcorn. The ship entered a low orbit, the hull groaning as it hit the upper atmosphere. Beneath them, the surface rushed up a vast, crunchy expanse of white and gold. They landed with a heavy, muffled thud, the ship settling into the porous ground. The airlock cycled open, and they stepped out into a crisp, dry atmosphere. Giant cornstalks swayed around them, towering like trees in a golden forest. They pushed through the stalks, their boots crunching loudly with every step. A river snaked through the center of the clearing, flowing with a thick, yellow liquid that caught the light. Via knelt at the bank, dipped a finger into the stream, and tasted it. She grinned, stepped back, and dove headfirst into the liquid. The splash echoed across the fields. The others watched as she surfaced, laughing, floating in the butter-like pool as if it were a calm summer lake on Earth. The tension of the journey dissolved. The laughter from the riverbank died as the light above the golden fields shifted. The bright, warm glow of the popcorn sky bruised into a deep, heavy amber. Luna looked up, shielding her eyes, as the first drops fell. They were not water. Thick, warm, and viscous. The liquid splattered against the giant cornstalks with a dull, rhythmic thud. It was melted butter, falling in a relentless, heavy deluge. The group scrambled back from the river, their boots slipping on the slick, golden ground. Every step became a struggle against the thickening mud. Nia grabbed a handful of dry stalks, trying to shield her face, but the heat of the rain was already soaking through. "Find cover!" Luna shouted, her voice barely audible over the sudden, wet roar of the storm. They sprinted toward a cluster of jagged, popcorn-like rocks. The air grew humid, smelling intensely of salt and scorched grain. They reached the rocks, huddling into a narrow crevice. Aplina dragged a discarded piece of fabric from the ship, pinning it against the stone to create a makeshift roof. They worked with frantic, jerky movements, hands slick with the yellow rain, trying to seal the edges before the deluge turned the ground beneath them into a swamp. The storm intensified. Luna struck the match, the flame catching the dry stalks and erupting into a steady golden glow. The fire crackled, casting long, dancing shadows against the tent walls, while the butter rain drummed a relentless rhythm outside. They huddled close, the heat of the fire fighting the damp, heavy air. Then, the light changed. A massive, jagged silhouette blotted out the firelight, stretching across the tent floor like a dark, encroaching tide. The group froze. Luna gripped her makeshift tool, her knuckles white, as the shadow loomed higher, wider, and completely motionless. Every sound seemed to vanish into the sudden, suffocating silence. A heavy, metallic footfall crunched into the golden ground. A tall, angular figure stepped into the flickering light. It was a construct of polished metal and complex, shifting gears. The stranger extended a hand, holding a small, weathered bag. He opened the bag, offering a handful of coarse white salt. Luna gestured to the empty space by the flames. Orville sat, his joints clicking with a rhythmic, soothing cadence. He began to speak, his voice a steady hum that wove tales of distant nebulae and forgotten star systems. The group leaned in, passing around handfuls of the planet's crunchy bounty. They laughed as Orville mimicked the sounds of solar winds. Outside, the relentless strumming of the butter rain slowed to a soft, rhythmic drizzle, then stopped entirely. The golden fields grew still. One by one, the group drifted into sleep, their heads resting against the warm, dry stalks. Orville remained upright, his internal gears turning. The stars above burned with a steady, ancient light, watching over the strange, golden silence of the night.